Tears flow freely as family and friends identify Mandera attack victims. So this was unfortunate news earlier this week. We woke up to news that 6 people had died, dozens others injured in an Al-Shabaab attack. And what is interesting about this story is that government spokesman Eric Raithe came out and said that security agencies had gathered intelligence over this attack, but that intelligence, the intelligence that they did receive was not accurate. So security agencies are not able to foil that attack, which again points out to another security lapse in the country. And every time we have such a terror attack, there's always an indication of a security lapse in the country. Do we ever learn from our mistakes?
Well, maybe we start from the beginning, that actually the president and the security agencies have done very well, because the number of attacks have reduced considerably for a long time. But the kind of information that the government spokesman is giving in other mature economies, like say in the US, he would have probably be fired by today. Because when the president took office, he was given a ceremonial sword and he was given a Bible. And the principal responsibility of any president anywhere in the world is to secure lives and properties. Yes. So when a top official of President Kenyatta's administration says, wait a minute, about 6 dead, many injured, we had this information, but it was not accurate, we were unable to act on it, you really begin to wonder whether the gentleman is actually sane. Yes. Is he really sane? Is he sick? Because you had information. It's up to you to verify. Nobody has ever come complaining to Wanjiku that, wait a minute, we don't have enough human resource, we don't have enough budget to verify this kind of information. And for Wanjiku, it doesn't care how you get information, how you get resources. All they want to do is to be sure that their lives and property are secure, bottom line. The rest are details. Because you've been employed, you've been given that opportunity. And you know, if this thing happened in America, the entire world comes to a stop. President Obama will be on top of the situation. You lose one life in America, the entire nation comes to a stop. But in Kenya, you lose human beings, 6 people, and the spokesman has got the guts to tell people that, wait a minute, we had this information, but we were unable to determine the actual time. Right. So it's as if they were seated somewhere having a cup of tea and they were told this thing is going to happen at 10 o'clock. It didn't happen at 10 o'clock. They said, okay, let's go back to bed. Right. I really think it's unacceptable. And it's a very strong statement that the system, or rather the Jubilee administration, does not care about us caring people's lives. Because really at the end of the day, as a president, when you are sworn in, you are given that ceremonial sword, not because you're going to keep it somewhere, but you know you've been given the responsibility. You even notice on a receipt of that sword is when the ADC changes from the retiring president and he stands behind the new president, meaning that the entire nation is entrusting their lives and properties in you. Right. And if you've got people within your administration who come and admit liability, and then as soon as the media conference is over, they go back to their office, they're enjoying tea on Wanjiku's taxpayer, and they're doing everything on tax, and they're really happy, they're not ashamed of what is happening, a bad state of affairs. Absolutely. And of course, it's also good to mention that these 6 that died are not just a statistic. These are families, family and friends of other people. For example, for the 6 who died, many of them were not residents of Mandera. They were just living there, temporarily. Some of them here had, like David Mushoke, for example, 40 years old, left a family behind, 3 children. And so, families are affected. It's not just 6 people that died. Families are affected. So you can imagine for the gentleman called Mushoki, the breadwinner, family, wife, children, when they're going to lay the body to rest, and then they recall what the spokesman said, that we had information and would have actually protected this gentleman's life. What does the family think about the Kenyan government? Because really, it's not up to us to go and carry weapons. The government has got unlimited resources, especially the intelligence gathering and the local police and KDF. So when you've got information and you do not act on it, it's really unacceptable. I think, for me, that forms a very good reason for some people to be fired. And maybe the government is just left with a lot of impunity, knowing that even if you admit you had information and you do not act on it, the Kenyans were just going to yawn and it's business as usual. I really think this is unacceptable. And the president needs to follow up and find out who slept on the job and how the people fired.
Because what use is that information if it's not acted upon?
I mean, like, for instance, when you look at some of the best countries that have managed terrorism, like Rudolph Giuliani, when he was the mayor of New York, invested heavily in the New York police department, gave them a lot of resources. And wherever they got intelligence information that there was going to be an attack, they had to establish whether or not the information is genuine, to be sure that there's no terrorist attack in New York. So even if every madman in the village is telling you something is going to happen, you have to go and verify to establish whether or not the information you can act on is. But for the spokesman to come, you know, with a lot of guts, alacrity, and tell us, wait a minute, we had this information, but we were not sure. Bad manners, and shame on him.
Right.
I really hope that he gets embarrassed. I'm hoping that his wife and children will actually look at him in the eye and they say, Daddy, did you really say that? And I'm hoping that Major General Kaiseri and the president will actually move. Because as you've indicated, for many of us, we can talk about it as if it's a piece of statistics, but there are people whose quality of life is going to be compromised.
It's never going to be
the children will not go to school. I mean, it's really a multiplier effect. And all this, you know, it would have been an entirely different story if the government did not know that there was a probability of this attack happening, but not that the information. But again, it tells you that the security agencies in Kenya are just riddled with corruption. You get information, instead of acting, you just go and enjoy your nyama choma somewhere and whiskey, and people die.
Absolutely. It's very unfortunate.